You got to tune to KEXP on your device right now, however it may be. I'm Darek Mazzone, and this is a show called Wopop. And we have an in-studio right now with a band I've been following for quite a long time. They're always fabulous. Their name is Niyaz. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us. It's an honor. I'm such a big fan of KEXP and yours, so it's an honor for us to be here to share our music.
Thank you. Welcome to Seattle.
Thank you.
You've been here a few times before.
Yes, a few times.
You came in a nice sunny day, which is great.
I like to think I brought the sun with me.
There you go. Positive attitude. You're doing a residency at University of Washington?
Yes, we are.
And you'll be playing in a couple of days at Mini Hall, which is a beautiful room.
Yes.
Awesome. Can we hear a song?
Absolutely. We're going to play Tam Eshq, A Taste of Love. It's an Iranian song that we composed.
Awesome. Thank you. Niyaz lives in the studio of KEXP. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Tell me more about the lyrics.
So this song is from our last album, The Fourth Light, which is dedicated to the first female mystic and Sufi that we know of. She was born in the 8th century. Her name was Rabia al-Basri. And she was born in what would be considered modern-day Iraq. But of course, back then, we didn't have geographical borders. So unfortunately, she was left out of our history books. So we decided we wanted to shine a light on her life and her poetry and philosophy for the Fourth Light. And when we started researching her, unfortunately only 7 of her poems have survived that we know of, that we can directly attribute to her. So the lyrics for this song are loosely sort of interwoven with one of her poems. And we had to modify it just because the cadence and the weight of the words, the way she wrote it, would not have fit into a sort of 4/4 song structure. So it's based on one of her poems.
What is it about her specifically that attracts you to her? Because I know something about this poet, and she was one of the first female Sufi poets, and for a woman to speak at that time, especially, was very controversial. And she, from what I've read, she decided to focus on that and went into, quote unquote, the mountains and wrote poetry and separated herself from society as it was then. And there's a interesting narrative about her from a feminist perspective. So I'm just curious if we could speak to that, if that was one of the interests.
Well, I think for me as a Iranian woman and also growing up in India, I've always looked to figures that were culturally relevant to me as a person, and how I could sort of define for myself what it means to be a woman, to want to become an artist and freely express myself, and in many ways also break gender norms for our region. And Rabia was really the first woman that I know of who really did that. She broke gender norms. She broke so many rules for her time. Also, in terms of religious doctrine and ideology, she challenged all of those, and she took something that was very external in terms of a religious experience and turned it inward and said, spirituality is an inner journey. So she was remarkable for me in that sense, a great inspiration. And I could not think of a more appropriate figure to pay tribute to and also honor, because I'm standing on her shoulders.
Beautiful. I'm here with Niyaz on KEXP. Thank you so much. Azam, could you introduce the band, please?
Oh, my goodness. We have on 2 very old instruments, kopuz and kaval, my dear friend, brother, Sinan Cem Erolu. He is from Turkey, but he lives in Germany, and we're really honored that he's here with us today. On kaman, which is a wonderful bowed instrument that was created specifically for him by a wonderful instrument maker in Los Angeles, Jonathan Wilson, on kaman, and on lafta, which is also a Turkish instrument, the wonderful Loga Ramin Torkian. And joining us from Quebec on the programming and keyboards, my new friend and dear friend who has joined us, Stéphane Gervais.
Perfect. And you are Azam
And
Ali.
I am Azam Ali.
One of the finest vocalists that I've heard in a long time.
Thank you so much.
You.
Thank you.
So how long has the band been together?
Well, we launched Niyaz in 2004, 2005 with producer Carmen Rizzo. And then since then, it's been through so many evolutions. And I sort of took over the role of Carmen. So I do all the electronic and music, just production on that end, the electronic production. Loga and I compose a majority of the songs together, but now Sinan is becoming really a co-composer with us on this project, and the many songs that we have recorded recently, he has sort of spearheaded. So he's really becoming part of Niyaz. I consider him a permanent fixture, so we are truly honored because he is really one of my favorite musicians in the world.
Perfect. There's so much I want to ask you, but let's hear another song and then we'll go into it. Niyaz on Wopop KEXP, where music of the world matters. Niyaz live in the studios of KEXP. It was beautiful. Beni Beni is the track?
Yes.
What does it translate to?
Actually, this comes from the Turkish Alevi Bektashi tradition in Turkey. They are a religious minority group, and their music is really profound for me, and their philosophy. It would be maybe the equivalent of the Sufis in Iran. And actually, Sinan comes from that tradition as well. This song is really about, it's an ancient folk song, and it's really about someone singing to the divine and saying, you have given me everything in this world that I would need, but the only thing you have not given me is the knowledge to know the path towards you. How do I get myself to you? Is that right, Sinan?
Okay. So I've been a fan for a long time, and I remember having this conversation with Carmen, who was the co-founder, and I've known him through DJ Circuit, and we were in the Winter Music Conference in Miami, surrounded by techno and house music and just insanity. And he started telling me about this project. And I was like, it was super incongruous because we're like, okay, Niyaz sounds fascinating, but this is an interesting juxtaposition. But as the years progressed, you guys got bigger and bigger. You were on 6 Degrees, so I was getting stuff from Bob Duskus and Pat, who are a great label. Yes. And then you became part of like an interesting scene out of San Francisco and throughout the world, combining these traditional elements in a dance floor culture, but you created your own particular dance floor with it. Now, the thing that I found really intriguing is that you were touring all over the world, and you guys would end up like in Kazakhstan, Indonesia, because you had this population that really loved you. Part of the population was made up of expats. I mean, you guys created particular Asian flavored music, but there was a Iranian expat population that loved this music and were supporting it. And the thing that I would love to speak to is that, you know, we're talking about a poet from 800. So as an Iranian singer, you can reach to a lexicon that's thousands of years old. And whereas in the States, if you grew up here, it's like, all right, you know, it's a pop song, you know, we can maybe go back to the blues. But you're singing songs that are thousands of years old. How do you take that and put it into a modern perspective where it can be understood, and how do you digest it? If you don't mind me asking.
Oh, of course not. I love talking about this. Well, I came to the US in 1985 from Iran, and because I had this, you know, India is also my homeland, I really got into a lot of electronic music. And one of my biggest inspirations for actually wanting to create Niyaz was the Asian underground movement that was coming out of the UK. I was listening to this music that had these very old Indian elements, but then it was sort of in a modern context. And it really spoke to me because here I was someone who was coming with deep roots, ancient roots and traditions, and I was trying to reconcile those with the new environment and the Western and modern environment that I was living in. So the music is really an autobiography of our lived experience as Iranians and coming to the US and assimilating. It's really very assimilated music in that sense. And I love that synthesis of the old and the new, the East and the West, and kind of telling a new story for our generation. Because a lot of what was happening also is I found people my age, Iranians, they were really wanting to assimilate so much that they were cutting off ties. They were erasing a lot of who they were. And for me, this erasure was just so painful that I thought, okay, I'm an artist. There's a way for me to tell a story and keep those deep roots alive, but kind of make them alive for a new generation. What's odd is we started doing it for ourselves and for our generation of Iranians in diaspora. And suddenly we found that the music was speaking to an international audience. That part I will never understand because majority of people who now come and listen to our music, they don't understand a word of what I'm singing in. So I think that speaks to the ultimate power of music, where if you're able to really tell your true story, somehow it transcends all the barriers and it just goes directly to the human soul, the human heart, much like reading poetry of Rumi. You know, you don't have to be Iranian or be a Sufi or even a religious person at that, but you just read Rumi and something happens, you know.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a great story. Let's hear some more music, please. Niyaz on Wopop KEXP. Niyaz on Wopop on KEXP. Finally in the studios of KEXP. It took a while, but we got you here, which is awesome. So Iran is in the news right now.
It has always been in the news.
But I'm curious because I know that you have a fan base in Iran, which is intriguing because still women cannot be seen singing on television in Iran. That's still going on. And let's future trip a little bit because I'm of a generation that saw the Berlin. I grew up in Poland. The Berlin Wall fell. I could go back to Poland. We just had an artist in here from Ethiopia playing Ethiopia for a long time. It was like you couldn't in it. If something changes and you could go back and play, would you?
Oh my goodness, I think the only scary part for me about performing in Iran is I think if I went on the stage I would start crying and I wouldn't even be able to sing. It would be such a, even when I think about it, I get emotional. Imagine to never sing in your own country, you know? What could be more painful, yeah.
But you are one of these women, these artists that are representing that culture from your perspective. So, you know, when you look up Iranian singers, you show up on that thing. So that's an interesting, even though you can't sing there, you are singing for those women.
I get so many messages from Iran and they can't even download my music. So I try to find ways to make it accessible for them to be able to download for free. But, you know, I think, I don't like to think that I represent Iranian women because I was fortunate that I left after the revolution and I don't know what it's like to grow up in under such an oppressive regime. And it breaks my heart that there are probably so many talented Iranian artists, from poets, writers, musicians, who will never be able to share their voice with the world because just because of the environment that the oppressive environment that they live in. I hope that, you know, me kind of sharing my story as a diasporic artist. I mean, when Loga and I first launched Niyaz when I went to Carmen, we had these songs, and we went to him with sort of, there were no Iranian artists really doing what we did. As I said earlier, I was really inspired by the Asian underground movement, but I didn't hear any Iranian artists doing that. And Loga and I talked about it, and we said, let's give our people a voice, people who have lived our experience. And then we took it to Carmen, and he loved the idea. And then, you know, Niyaz was born as a result of that. And I think the reason it also resonates back home is not so much that they feel I represent them, but it's like seeing one of your sisters, you know. It's like I'm part of their family, and they saw me sort of like a bird just be released and fly free, and it represents some, I would like to say, hope. Maybe there's hope. Yeah,
exactly.
There.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yes. Because
the conversations I've been having with other Iranian artists is that's the energy they're trying to give back over there.
Absolutely.
Which is so powerful. So the new record is Fourth Light.
Yes, it doesn't feel new anymore. We're starting a new album and stage show now. We've kind of moved into a multidisciplinary direction, and we have this amazing multimedia show. So we're creating another one, and as part of that, it will be, of course, included with an album.
There is a visual element to your work. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I've seen it, and it's like there's an intention behind it. It's not like, you know, old school hippie.
Just projecting visuals in the back and musicians performing in the front.
Speak to what the intention is behind the visuals.
Well, we moved to Montreal in 2010, mainly because we wanted to raise our son in a smaller environment, and we had performed there and fell in love with it. And one thing very interesting about Quebec is that there's a lot of government support for this particular kind of any sort of digital and futuristic art, you know. So we ended up meeting just incredible artists, and we saw several dance performances, and in the dance world they seem to always be so ahead of their time in terms of embracing technology. And we saw this artist's work and fell in love with it, and his name is Jerome de la Pierre, and we contacted him and said, he took a meeting with us, and we said, can you do this for a live musical performance? And he said, wow, no one has done that. I want to do that. So basically what it is we like to call it a digital scenography. It's really a synthesis of light, sound, and movement. What you have is We have some preset visuals, and a lot of visuals that are triggered by sound and certain frequencies in the music. And we also have live projection mapping so that the visuals also respond to movement in real time. And we have these amazing they're not really curtains, they're made of very fine strings, and we have about 8 of them. So when you sit in front of it, it's really it sucks you in. I mean, it's a very, very psychedelic show. So you are completely immersed in it. You're not watching just visuals and then artists in front of it. So it's really a show unlike any other, and I highly recommend. Are you coming to the show?
Yeah, I'll be there. Where are you playing after? Where can people catch you guys?
After this, we are going to Albuquerque and then Tucson. They're mostly all performing arts series. And then we go to Toronto, then we go to Montreal, and then we finish at the Met in New York City.
Okay, perfect. And more info can be found on Niyaz?
Everything on our website,
on our website. Okay, perfect. Let's hear some more music, please. Niyaz,
thank you.
On Wopop, KEXP, where music of the world matters. Niyaz on Wopop and KEXP. That was beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Please
Thank you,
come back again.
KEXP.
Massive success. Thank you.
Thank you.
Big shout out for continuing to do what you do.
Thank you.
And also,
you also. Thank you for giving us a voice and a platform. Thank you.
And one day, maybe in Tehran.
Inshallah.
This is Wopop KEXP 90.3. You got us on YouTube right now. And everybody out there who is watching, we're a nonprofit arts organization. So please go to kexp.org and continue to support us so we could bring bands such as Niyaz and others that we haven't even discovered yet to the airwaves and to the video waves. And a huge shout out to Scott, Jim, Carlos, Alaia, and Kevin, everybody here that makes KEXP happen. Peace.
Discover new music at listener-powered KEXP.org.